IVM.
Security on a computer is like a layered cake. No matter how secure each layer may be, attackers and hackers will work tirelessly to find a vulnerability and exploit it. These cyber attacks can sneak into a system unnoticed, eventually gaining access to all the programs and files on your computer stack. Luckily, with Intel vPro platform, all of this is avoidable. Intel vPro has the Intel Hardware Shield, which adds protection to every layer of the computer system with 3 groups of security capabilities. Advanced threat protection, which helps quickly detect and remediate the latest ransomware and crypto mining attacks on the system. Below the OS security, which helps identify unauthorized changes to hardware and firmware. And application and data protection, which helps prevent memory corruption and malware injection. So secure your organization's productivity with hardware-based security only with Intel vPro. Visit www.intel.in/IT-heroes to know more. Intel vPro, built for business. Here's your smart fact of the day. As the world limps back to normalcy, we are seeing a lot of movie theaters open. I know that if you're double vaccinated in India, you are able to see some movies in theaters. And in the UK, you are able to go and see a movie in the theater in any case. I don't think that they're checking for any double vaccination. In fact, September 2021, saw the release of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Cinderella, Malignant, okay, and Respect and Dune and a few others, but No Time to Die, which is the final one where James Bond is being played by Daniel Craig. That's going to happen on 30th of September. So really exciting times for the theater industry that is trying to limp back to normal. Now, the theater industry has been certainly impacted by the pandemic. I mean, no prizes for guessing how much. And it has been a terrible experience for people who were in this trade, suddenly, figuring out that there seems to be no light at the end of the tunnel. And obviously, with the rise of OTT platforms and the way in which Netflix and everything else just took over the job of entertaining all of us during the pandemic, it was becoming more and more apparent that the way back into theaters may not be very smooth even after the pandemic has kind of spent its way through humanity. Today's episode with Smarter with Sid, I'm trying to figure out, what my own experience has been of going to a theater in the UK, which I just did yesterday. I saw the Shang-Chi film, which is, a typical superhero film. I enjoyed it with my family. And I went over there and I just wanted to recount that experience and probably tell you what I'm foreseeing. But let's first get into the experience itself. Firstly, the choice of the film was essentially a superhero film chosen by my kids. And obviously, it makes sense to see certain kinds of films in theaters. And this was one of them, the big ticket movie experience as opposed to a typical Netflix sort of offering. I don't think I would be able to see too many superhero films on a Netflix or a smaller screen. And I think there are some which are certainly made for this larger screen. Of course, the new James Bond film is something that I would love to go and into a theater and watch. So I went over there and we all sat there. And the first surprise that hit us was that we were supposed to order whatever food, whatever the expensive popcorn or the, other nachos and Cokes and the rest of it were. We had to order it either through an app or through a kiosk that was placed outside. And all you had to do was collect the order from the restaurant itself or the chain of restaurants, the small stalls that you see outside any movie theater. And that was interesting. That was a change because that discouraged a line in a crowded sort of space. And it was encouraging people to, change their behavior of ordering food and not deciding over there and, not having that typical experience. And that was a big plus to my mind. It did take a little time. It was a little disorienting at first because we didn't know that this was going to happen. But by the time we got our food and stuff like that, we felt safer, we felt good. and B, it was just a well thought through thing, because whenever you're buying on your app or whenever you're buying off a kiosk, the kind of thinking that happens is also more logical and rational, rather than that chaos that emanates when people are just saying, oh, I want this, oh, I want that, and stuff like that, and nobody eventually knows what the hell they've ordered in the first place. Then we sat in, and obviously there was a lack of too much of advertising there, because I think advertisers are still getting warmed up to the fact that movie theaters are a thing again. And then the movie kind of started. uh, when it started, it just took some getting used to, and I'll tell you what it took some getting used to. Number one, it it required total attention, and that is a big difference. Trust me, if you haven't been to a theater after the pandemic and you go for the first time, you'll know what I'm saying immediately. When you're in a darkened room and there's a big screen in front of you and there's compelling action, it's a very decent film that we saw, by the way. Not the best, it's a superhero film, but it's very compelling in its action sequences and stuff. It is quite the thing, because what you're doing is you're not getting distracted into doing other things, which we typically would do if you're on to a YouTube or a Netflix or something like that. A movie theater demands total attention. And that was an amazing sort of insight for me, because it allows me to think that maybe we can be thinking intelligently for marketing purposes and do something about this different kind of attention that is happening from audiences within a theater. Maybe, just maybe, it's quite possible that um, you know content marketing which happens, branded stuff happening within the movie, may have better days to come, because of the kind of attention, the quality of attention that is paid by an audience member of a theater, as opposed to some watching something on Netflix. So there might be branded content that can win because of this back to theaters move. The second thing which I found really interesting, and no, this is a negative to the positive that I was thinking of before, is when you get kind of fidgety because you're not used to paying so much attention all of a sudden to a singular thing. So you do look at your family, maybe you do look at whether they're enjoying themselves, you do look at the kind of food that you're having, and then you suddenly want to move the needle if it's a boring scene, or you want to hasten it, or you want to stretch it, and then you miss the bar at the bottom of the Netflix screen, which you could have shifted along in order to hasten proceedings. You just find it very disconcerting that in a theater you can't do, but you have to wait for that particular scene to get over. Another really interesting thing is, in Shang-Chi, the subtext did happen when it was Chinese, but when the characters went back into American English, the subtext disappeared. Of course, I was in the UK, but I missed the subtext. As somebody who may or may not understand all of the accented words that happen in American or in English or whatever, I do miss the subtext, because they allow me to like a story better. I understand it and I can do two things at the same time. And I actually miss the subtext as well. So these are a couple of points that made me realize that maybe film creators making a movie for the theater might want to think about the subtext option to be quite there, and also the way in which certain scenes are going to be perceived by an ever impatient audience. Now, these are some of the observations. Will I go again? Yes, of course, I'm going to go back again to see No Time to Die. And there will be some movies that I would prefer to go and see on a theater. Yes, my behavior would be modified for a certain while, but I suspect that theater viewers might be flocking back to theaters over a period of time, but they might expect different things from the overall theater experience as well as the content within each film. I hope you like this particular episode of Smarter with Sid. I think that the way in which I got smarter was to actually understand how do I create a film for the future, or how do I create content for the future when I was thinking through this episode. And it did make me that 1% smarter. And if you like what is going on over here, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm the Traveling Professor. Over there, just hunt me up. And also on LinkedIn. And if you like podcasts like these, my friends, just go down to IVM Podcast. They've got some fantastic stuff going. And until next time, see you soon.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into A Show About Crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On the season finale of Getting Meta, Chuck speaks to social service activist Srini Swaminathan about how he completed 28 cycling marathons despite having asthma. On Candid Kanan, ex-Big Boss contestant Ali Goni opens up to Siddharth about his relationship with Jasmine and how it was received at home. On Shunyavan, Shiladitya and myself speak to Kirti Jangra, co-founder and COO of Animal Technologies, about the journey of this cattle trading platform. Yeah, it's a cattle trading platform. Really interesting. Do check it out. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth tells us about the design interface lessons we are learning from Zoom. And on Hansvani, listen to a beautiful ghazal titled Ghar Badal. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of the shows on the IVM network for that matter, please do tell a friend. We really appreciate that. And finally, I'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Fiat Cred, Banco Baroda, Quarter, and CoinSwitch Kuber. We really do appreciate the support.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं। हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार